everyone, my name is Dana. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about dogs that obsessively, compulsively bark. They make their presence known, and for whatever reason, it could be good reasons, it could be bad reasons, they need you to know about it, and they have lots of words to say. I will be talking about what might be causing this behavior and the reasoning behind it, and I will be talking about how we can work past it. So ultimately, it is really up to you as the owner to be able to understand why your dog is barking and what might be causing it. My dog Gunner, he barks whenever there is something exciting. He needs you to know how excited he is. He, on the very rare occasion, will do a protective bark. If there's, for example, an unfamiliar car going down the driveway, he might give one big woof. Or if he hears someone walking and doesn't recognize their footsteps, he might woof and do a little bit of a growl. As soon as I go, "Gunner, it's me," "Okay," and goes away, which I very much appreciate from him. The Border Collies, they're not allowed to bark because their barks are pathetic. The only time she really barks is when he does it first, but she's gotten a lot better at that because she knows she's not supposed to. Every now and then when she's really surprised, she will squawk in solidarity with Gunner and I go, "Ammo?" And she goes, Buddy has only barked maybe 3 times that I've heard, other than in his sleep. He'll bark in his sleep quite often. One time it was outside, there were some dogs across the street that were barking that like you could hear, and I was mildly concerned about. These two didn't care. He cared. He ran in the opposite direction because he heard it echoing and barked at the trees instead of across the road. Same with, there was one time one of our neighbors who just has like land and doesn't live there, I think they were blowing up tannerite or something, echoing off the trees. Same thing, he barked at the tree line instead of across the road where they were doing it. And then the last time was quite recently when I was teasing Ammo and I went woo, 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 and she thought that was so silly, and here he comes, he goes, "Someone woof," and he barked in solidarity with me. He goes, "Oh yeah, you show him, Dana, whoever they are, I'm with you." Like, thank you, buddy. But other than that, these two don't really bark. Anyways, back to the actual subject after I talked about my dogs for a very long time. You, as the owner, have to discriminate what the situation is. Is it something where you're nervous? Is it something where there's a lot of stuff going on? Is it something your dog really likes and is happy to be there? Because all of these reasonings have different solutions, and it's not a one-size-fits-all training. Training in general is not one-size-fits-all, but when it's very situational, like this, it is definitely not one-size-fits-all. So, Gunner's main trigger for barking is he's excited. Like I said, this is where they go, "Oh my gosh, someone's here, I'm so excited," and they need you to know how happy they are. Or when he's at the vet and he sees all of his new friends, "Oh, I'm so excited," and he just cries and cries and barks until everyone says hi to him. Very toxic that he does that, but that's the one place. The vet is the one place where I don't have rules for my dogs. They are allowed to just get away with things because I want them to keep on enjoying the vet. Oh, we go here and we can do whatever we want and say hi to whoever we want. Especially her. She's the one I'm most worried about at the vet, because after they give her a shot, she goes, "I don't like you so much anymore." Another reason is they want something. That's another thing with him. He will cry, cry, cry until someone gives him attention. He would cry, cry, cry until he got his supper time. That's the reason why I took away my feeding schedule. Sometimes they fed early, sometimes they're fed late, so that way he doesn't start going, "Oh, it's 5 o'clock, so it's time for me to be fed, Dana." Now, I will say, I do have him trained because the way I taught him to speak is every time he'd woo 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 at me when I go, "Gunner, are you hungry?" He'd woo woo woo. No, 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 no. And then that would be his reward. He'd get fed his supper because that was the only time he'd really talk in general. Now he will yell at me sometimes when I ask them if they're hungry. And I'm like, okay, I did this to myself. But that's enforced behavior that I gave him. That wasn't... Sometimes, obviously in the beginning, it was him because he was excited and he was like, "Yes, feed me, I'm so excited to be fed." But now it's because I enforced it, and that's why I'm not really teaching any of my dogs speak anymore, because I try to get him to woo woo, and the border collies just go, oh my gosh, we're so excited, and she'll squeak but not actually bark, and then he sometimes will go but rarely will he actually bark. So I've just given up on speak. Hi, honey. So another reason why dogs bark is they're alerting to something. They're letting you know something. So that's another thing. When people drive up the driveway, he's alerting. Settle. Or when, for example, he hears unfamiliar footsteps, he'll bark and alert me. And that isn't aggression or fear. That is them being uncertain and letting you know about it. At the end of the day, it's really up to you if you want them to alert. Like I said, I allow him because he has a big dog bark. I don't allow the border collies because their barks are pathetic. And at the end of the day, he's the kind of dog who would never back down. These two would run away with their tail between their legs going, Dana, save us, Dana, save us. So to prevent more chaos, they are trained to just like, if I'm calm, you guys be calm. Gunner's the one who has, I let him have some intelligent disobedience. He knows he's not supposed to bark all the time. He knows he's not supposed to do these things, but in times of uncertainty, he knows he is allowed to break my rules, because ultimately that is doing more good than harm. Next up is fear. Dogs bark a lot of times in uncertainty. Typically, so for example, I have a lot of German Shepherds that are taking lessons from me or have taken lessons from me. And they either bark sometimes out of excitement if they're well bred and they're not protection bred, but most of the time they bark because they're afraid. In my experience, German Shepherds are not good guard dogs, especially, obviously, canine, different, but for pets, if you get a German Shepherd and think it's going to be a good protector, it is going to cause so much more harm than good, because they are herding dogs. They are high energy and high anxiety, and all that bark is because they're afraid. An actual good guardian dog or protective dog will de-escalate the situation with its presence, not escalate the situation by barking and lunging and freaking out because they feel like they have to overcompensate because they're afraid, but they feel like they have to take control of a situation. So, like I said, this isn't all German Shepherds, but just in my experience over the years, that is the common cause. And that's why they're turning into a breed that does unfortunately have some discrimination against them, because, like I said, they are afraid, so they escalate, and then that's when bites and nips happen, because they feel like they have to take it to that level to protect. Whereas an actual good guardian dog will just go, you stop this, maybe a growl, maybe one bark, but they are very confident in themselves, where they know what level to take it to. Another thing is when they're home alone, this guy will sometimes cry. She will cry when she knows that I'm doing something fun, and she can hear it when she's crated, because I do have individual time with all my dogs and the other ones have to deal with it, and then you just work around that by not giving them what they want. If she's crying because she wants to play, too bad, I'm gonna keep on playing until you shut up. But yeah, so those are some different ways. It's really common for dogs that are afraid or reactive to barking. Most of the time, all that reactivity doesn't even equal aggression. It equals something else. So now let's talk about how we can manage this problem and fix it and work away from it. First off, I'm going to start that a lot of aversive tools when it comes to barking can sometimes make the problem worse. So, for example, the squirt bottles or the sound things, even bark collars, they're a little bit more tricky because they instill fear, and a lot of times when a dog is barking, they aren't afraid, or if they're afraid, we don't want to make them more afraid. So, for example, if Gunner's barking because he's so excited to say hi to someone, and then he gets startled every single time, that can give him a negative association, which then turns into reactivity in a bad way, as opposed to, I'm just so excited, I need to say hi. Or if your dog is already reactive in a bad way, where they're afraid, and then we startle them even more with a noise gun, that can just escalate the situation. The whole goal of training out barking from a dog is de-escalating the situation. So what I would do is, whatever the trigger is for a dog, I would just remain neutral. This is counter conditioning. I call it passive dog training, where you let the dog make the decisions and then they are corrected and rewarded based off of their decisions. So this is where having, if your dog is a big strong dog, a prong collar will come into play, and you will be doing correcting, not over the top. But if your dog passes the threshold of no return, you can help ground them again with that prong collar. Or if your dog can work past that, then you don't need one. But ultimately, protect your dog's trachea and protect yourself. If you have a big strong dog like Gunner, who could still pull me over if he really wanted to at 10 years old, I would rather be safe personally, and I don't want to lose control of a situation, especially when it's that high energy. If something were to happen with that energy that high, that's when bad things could happen, because he's the kind of dog who takes out his excitement by mouthing, and I don't want him to mouth the wrong person. So you have your dog on your leash, you have a high value treat, and if your dog barks, you can correct, you can move the dog away from the situation, or wait a little while to let them figure out. They can bark their head off and they will never get what they want. As soon as your dog stops barking, yes, good dog, give that treat. And then see what happens. If the dog starts barking again, correct. If the dog keeps on watching you, yes, good dog, yes, good dog. Literally treat dispense until the dog stops engaging with you and starts doing that negative behavior again. After your dog can handle this, you can make the thing more exciting that they're barking at, and slowly but surely expect more from your dog as well. I would never expect him, like in the beginning, to just sit and watch me when I was doing 4-H and I was in a group of like a lot of other kids with a lot of other dogs. That was unfair of him, and we had to start very far away, but each week we worked our way closer and closer and closer through counter conditioning and making myself more exciting than the exciting things around, to the point where we could be on the mat. And then I slowly but surely weaned him off that prong collar to the point where we were able to compete with a martingale, and we got a first in obedience, novice obviously, but still that's something, and a second in novice rally for him being in a shelter for 3 years, and then me going, oh yeah, I'm gonna train this dog and compete with him, and me being in high school where I didn't get to invest as much time into my dogs as I do now. I'm so proud of him to this day. You can also teach an alternative behavior, but this can go sour really quickly. I at first tried doing that when Gunner and I would go for walks in town and there'd be a dog coming. I was like, oh, well, I'll just teach him to sit and wait until the dog passes. We won't try to work through this. That was not the right answer. And you can do it. It's really easy to train it wrong, especially since I was still learning at that point. Obviously, I'm still learning now, but if you are just a pet owner and you're not working with a trainer, I would steer clear of training an alternative behavior, just because, like I said, you can turn it into something that is an exciting situation. It can turn into a trigger, actually, where Gunner learned, oh, when we go and sit to the side, I know there's someone coming, even if he didn't see it yet. And then he'd look for it, or he'd just start crying before he even saw it. So I was like, okay, that's not the plan. And instead, I just really basically avoided people walking, but looked for dogs that were outside, tethered, fenced in, and I'd walk close to the house until he'd freak out, and then we'd walk away. And then I'd walk close and walk away, and I'd give him and take from him depending on his behavior, because what he wanted was to get closer to the dog, to get closer to the exciting people. And when he reacted negatively, he was taken farther away. But then if he reacted positively, we got closer and he got treats for it. But as soon as he displayed a negative behavior, we about turned out of there. And we walked far. It wasn't just like a back and forth thing. I would take him basically to the other side of like the next house. And I'm sure this probably annoyed the crap out of a lot of people, but it's really what you have to do. Some people have a trained command on like quiet, knock it off, no more, something like that. And that can work, but ultimately it's also giving your dog attention. So I'd rather just them have the consequences of their own actions. Don't tell them yes, don't tell them no, just correct with no words, and reward with words. Only give them attention when they do the right thing. That's why prong collars are helpful, because you don't have to say no, bad. You can just, easy peasy. Like I said, obviously fitted properly, and that's where you go to a professional to help you get prong collar fitted. And if you have a smaller dog, you don't need a prong collar as much. But obviously if they're just at the end of the leash, then maybe yeah, a prong collar to protect your dog's trachea. Some other things you can do is when you're at home, enforce those calm behaviors. Look at my Rhodesian Ridgeback Vizsla Lab Pit Bull mix, relaxed after we had a very slow morning and it's gorgeous out. Look at my young Border Collie, purebred, working bred, who has an excellent off switch, just relaxing. This is something I trained them. I taught them how to be bored. I taught them how to relax by enforcing those calm behaviors. With her, she was in a playpen until she settled down. Then I'd open it when she was settled. But if she got right away, back in the playpen she went, because I didn't want her to think that the whole house was her playground. Same with him. When I first get home from school and he was younger, he would be, oh my gosh, it's Dana, and I would ignore him. At first it was for an hour. He would just be a pest, and he'd only get corrected and not rewarded. And then finally it turned into something that was less and less excitement. And then he learned how to be excited, but not over the top. And then that's where I'm okay with that. But enforcing calmness, that passive dog training where you just see your dog doing good things, like right now. Good, settle, Emma. What a good girl. Good, settle. That's good. But then since she's going to be a pest about it, no, knock it off. And then I just ignore her. And that's what she's needing to learn right now, is she's very pushy. She's a Border Collie. I'll let her have that one. That one's okay. I thought she was going to go under my hand. That's been her new negative thing, is pushing herself under your hand, so you have to give her attention, and that's not okay. Same with Gunner. Good boy, Gunner. Good, settle. What a good boy. And he'll just do his own thing and he'll settle back down. Well, he's older too, so that helps. But enforcing that calmness, have treats around your house. No. Have treats around your house so you can give them rewards and catch them in that action. Have that marker word that yes, yes, good dogs. They know what they're doing right now is good, and they know that they'll get a reward of some sort when I say yes, or good dog, yes, good dog. Just something like that. No. And then that way we can do that transition, yes to no, really quickly. Ultimately though, you need to be realistic with your dog, because there are some breeds that are just more vocal, there are some breeds that are less vocal, so the success of this will vary. He will always be more vocal than her. He has two very vocal breeds in him. Not Pit Bull, American Staffordshire Terrier and Labs are both very vocal. So he has that going for him. He's always going to be more talkative. And luckily, you can get very quiet Border Collies or really annoying loud ones. And I will, oops, sorry, I tickled his ear. I am very thankful that she is not, and if I ever get a loud one, I will never enforce that loudness. And as soon as they start talking, fun's done. And I will work against that, because that would just be unbearable. But ultimately, this is something that you do have to manage and passively train. It won't just be gone forever. They will probably take steps backwards if you're not persistent. And even after you feel like the problem is eradicated, you still have to be ready to correct if that problem shows up again. Like I said, it's all based off of breeds or whatever the mutt is mixed with. But this should help you work towards success. Anyways, that is it for today. If you have any questions on barking, reactivity, or anything like that. Or if you have anything you'd like to add, please leave it in the comments down below. I may do another follow-up video on this, but this is basically everything that I had made a list on so far. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!